On Christmas night in 1996, a murder occurred in the United States that shocked the whole world. A 6-year-old girl was found dead in the basement of her home. Several hundred people came under suspicion, including her parents and brother. They have not been able to solve this mystery for a quarter of a century, although many are sure that the girl's killer has long been known. JonBenet. Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, into a complete and wealthy family that seemed to have everything you could dream of. Her father, JonBenet Ramsey, was president of a computer sales company. He and his family moved to Boulder, Colorado, where he bought a new large house. From an early age, the girl participated in various beauty contests, winning many titles. These achievements brought her early fame and her parents an additional source of income. On December 25, 1996, JonBenet and her parents went to visit friends to celebrate Christmas. The holiday was a great success. The children rejoiced and had fun. They were entertained by Santa Claus all evening. On the way home, the girl fell asleep in the car, and her father took her to the bedroom. This was the last time JonBenet was seen alive by his parents. What happened next shocked the quiet and respectable town, making it the epicenter of one of the most mysterious murders in history. On December 26th, JonBenet's mother got up at 5 a.m. to prepare for a family trip to Lake Michigan. Going down the stairs, the woman saw a letter on the last step. The message said that her daughter, JonBenet, had been kidnapped and $118,000 had to be paid for her return. The amount was not chosen by chance. That's how much the girl's father's annual bonus was. Patricia ran to JonBenet's room, but she was no longer there. She woke up her husband, who decided to contact the police, despite the fact that the kidnapper forbade him to do so. The mother began calling her friends, many of whom immediately came to support her. The message said that the parents would be contacted in the next few hours, and they, along with the police and friends, were waiting. However, no call came. The letter, the main evidence of the case, was passed from hand to hand. The police did not interfere with this and did not even search Ramsey's house. They only invited the spouses to independently inspect the rooms and check whether everything was in place. Only 7 hours after the letter was discovered, Mr. Ramsey began an inspection, went down to the basement, and found his daughter's body on the floor. 2 large hematomas were found on the girl's head, and traces of blood were found on her underwear. The hands were tied above the head with a white cord. After the discovery of the body, the kidnapping escalated into a terrible murder. The police immediately wondered why the killer wrote a letter demanding a ransom. Moreover, it was written on the pieces of Mr. Ramsey's notebook and took up 3 pages. This meant that the criminal wrote it right in the house while the family was sleeping. According to police, he was in the house for about an hour. During all this time, no one heard anything suspicious or woke up. Here the question arises of how the killer could move JonBenet from the bedroom to the basement without making a sound, and also without leaving any traces behind. Soon after the investigation began, the police admitted that they had made a number of serious mistakes. The house was not searched properly, and when the decision was finally made to inspect it, the father of the murdered baby, John, and a friend, and not a law enforcement officer, began to do this. As a result, some important evidence could have been lost, and the chances of solving the crime without delay dropped to 0. Initially, 2 versions of what happened were considered. A certain intruder entered the house, who could have been either a complete stranger or an acquaintance of the family, or JonBenet's parents were involved in the murder. Having learned about the suspicions, the wealthy couple immediately hired the best lawyers. On their advice, John and Patricia flatly refused to give written testimony, according to which the investigation hoped to obtain an opinion from psychological specialists. They have a methodology in their arsenal that allows them to quite accurately determine what is false and what is true in the written testimony of witnesses. The further actions of the girl's mother and father also aroused suspicion. They refused interrogations and stated that in informal conversations with investigators, they had already provided all the information known to them. The deeper the detectives dug, the more suspicious the parents' testimony became. The mother told police that she let her daughter's hair down and took off her dress before going to bed. However, the girl was found in these clothes, and her hair was collected in two tails. They also contained pieces of a laurel wreath that the girls wore for the holidays. Secondly, during the autopsy, undigested pieces of pineapple were found in the girl's stomach. This means that she ate about 4 hours before the murder. According to the parents, the last time the baby ate at the celebration was around 20. 0. Where does the pineapple in the stomach come from then? Investigators also found the fruit in the family's refrigerator, causing further mistrust. Thirdly, some windows and the door in the house were not locked at night. Why didn't your parents lock the house? Perhaps they opened the locks after the tragedy occurred in order to confuse the investigation. Shortly before the incident, Patricia and John also distributed the keys to their home to many people, friends, relatives, servants, allegedly so that they could look after the house during the owner's future vacation. And finally, one more strange moment. The girl's mother was forced to undergo a handwriting examination to compare her writing style with the ransom message. Detectives concluded that during the examination, the woman deliberately changed her handwriting. However, later it turned out that the letter was written using a typewriter. She has not yet been found. The investigation also worked out the version according to which JonBenet killed her father. The man had been taking antidepressants for some time, so the police admitted that he could have hit the girl in a fit of anger. Thinking she had died, he could have faked her murder on strangers. It's worth remembering the ransom demand letter. Perhaps the parents wanted to put the investigation on the wrong trail and hoped that the police would not inspect the house. Realizing that a search was imminent, he could discover his daughter's body himself. While the parents remained the prime suspects, they appeared on television shows, gave interviews, and even released a book called Death of Innocence, in which they allegedly told everything they knew about their daughter's murder. Investigator Steve Thomas, who handled the case, also published a book about him. It is unknown what goals they pursued, but every year someone continued to make money from the name JonBenet. The girl's parents also filed a lawsuit against 2 publications, which in their materials accused them of murdering their daughter. They managed to sue for $4 million, which the public regarded as another attempt to profit from the late child. At the same time, detectives worked on another version: beauty contests. The police admitted that due to publicity, the girl could have been noticed by some man, then find out her address and kill her. This line of investigation was much more complicated, since the number of potential suspects could number in the thousands. Given this, the police have made no progress in this direction. The investigation has actually reached a dead end. Parents actively made money on the name of their late daughter. The hope of finding out the truth disappeared every year, but at one point everything changed. First, it is worth saying that the girl's mother died of ovarian cancer on June 24, 2006. Literally 2 months later, the unexpected happened. A man named John McCarr, who was completely unknown to the police, suddenly confessed to killing JonBenet. He stated that he saw the girl at one of the beauty contests and fell in love with her. The man collected her photos, newspaper clippings, and also dreamed of writing a book about her murder. The police already thought that one of the most high-profile cases had finally been solved. But alas, Carr turned out to be innocent. How is this possible? Until now, no one really understands why he took the blame. Some psychologists believe that some people are pathologically in need of constant attention. Confessing to a high-profile murder is the easiest way to get it. Others believe that Carr became so carried away by JonBenet's story and thoughts about it that he lost touch with reality. In his head, fantasy and life merged into a single whole, and he believed that it was he who killed the girl, even if in fact he had never met her. In fact, he could not remember a single significant detail about the night of the murder, was confused in his own words, and had no idea what the girl's house looked like. But that's not the main thing either. The police established that Carr was not even in the city at the time of the murder. He himself never explained why he took the blame. In 2008, there was another shift in the case. Using DNA analysis, it was possible to establish that the blood found on JonBenet's underwear did not belong to any of the girl's relatives. As it turned out, the blood belongs to an unknown man. A reconciliation of his DNA from the FBI's genetic material database yielded no results. After a long lull, another interesting event occurred. Berg, the victim's older brother, was first interviewed in 2016. In his opinion, the murder of JonBenet is connected precisely with beauty contests, where the girl was noticed by an unknown criminal. Here it is worth talking about another version, according to which the girl was killed by her brother himself. Supporters of this theory admit two scenarios. Berg may have accidentally pushed the girl, or otherwise caused her to suffer a serious head injury, resulting in the child's death. The theory seems very weak, since there would simply be no need to hide an accident involving parents. The second theory is much more logical. Berg could have deliberately inflicted serious injuries on his sister, which led to death. In such a case, the involvement of the father and mother in the cover-up of the crime can be easily explained. Having lost one child, they did not want the life of the second to be completely broken. Why would Berg kill his sister? Supporters of this version call envy the main motive. With the advent of JonBenet, the older brother took a back seat to his parents, and her successful career in beauty pageants only increased everyone's attention to the girl. This resentment could accumulate for years before it resulted in a fatal coincidence. This theory also raises questions. My brother was only 9 years old at that time. Could he have inflicted fatal trauma on the girl through his actions? And how could his parents forgive him after what they did? In 2019, the case received another unforeseen twist. 54-year-old inmate Jerry Oliva, who is serving time burying materials involving children, confessed to the murder of JonBenet. Oliva has been one of the main suspects since the investigation began. Then the police searched his car, finding a stun gun and poems about JonBenet. But they were unable to find any evidence linking him to the murder. On the night of the murder, December 26th, Oliva called his high school buddy Michael Whale and said, "I heard a little girl." Whale tried to extract more information from him, but he failed. After the call, he contacted the police and gave them the words "olives," but he is not aware of the further actions of the law enforcement officers. After 2016, when Oliva went to prison, Whale received letters from him in which he confesses he killed JonBenet, adding, "I pleaded guilty to the murder of JonBenet, as well as countless attacks on and sexual abuse of children. I have signed many agreements with court representatives in this regard. I'm a serial killer. I have a mental disorder that I cannot control. I told the detectives about all the murders I could remember, and they wrote everything down, but they can't prove any of those murders." It would seem that a few years later, the killer was found. But in this story, not everything is so simple. Firstly, a whole year has passed since recognition. Since then, this topic has practically not been raised. No charges were brought, even of an initial confession. Olive's it was known literally from the night of the murder. Secondly, the criminal claims that he loved the girl and did not want to kill her. She allegedly tripped and fell, breaking her head. Here we are faced with the question, how should the events of that night have developed if the parents and brother did not hear the fall? If the girl fell, it can be assumed that she was trying to escape. Why didn't she scream or call for help? Even if she tried to run silently, which is completely unusual for a child, the sounds of footsteps, struggles, and falls would still have to be heard throughout the house. But that's not all. A forensic examination showed that the head injury was most likely caused by a blow from a heavy object. Oliva claims that the girl fell. In my opinion, the version of Oliva's involvement seems absolutely untenable. The large British publishing house Daily Mail immediately inflated the confession of the criminal, announcing that the case had been solved. However, it is still open, and all these sensational statements from the newspaper look like an ordinary hype attempt at one of the most mysterious murders. Another fact speaks against the version of Oliva's involvement. Remember that window through which a criminal could enter the house? It was covered with cobwebs, and an adult man simply could not crawl past it. Lawyers hired by the girl's father defended a very strange version. In their opinion, the web is a very elastic material, and it could return to its original shape even after a person crawled through it. Additionally, detectives found no trace leading to the window or other potential entry points. Based on all this, one thing can be said. This crime is one of the most confusing and controversial in history. Among the many versions, each has its own shortcomings. But which theory seems most likely? Having studied all the nuances of this case, for me the most plausible version is the involvement of my brother. Many factors indicate to us that a stranger could not get into the house without leaving a trace. He could not commit this crime absolutely silently, move the girl to the basement, and leave. Excluding the outsider killer, we still have 3 suspects. Of course, a 9-year-old boy could not stage the kidnapping alone. If the killer was a brother, the participation of the parents in covering up the crime is simply inevitable. There is only one question left. If it was a brother, did he knowingly kill her? Or did he miscalculate his strength and hit the girl on the head with something, which led to her death? In my opinion, we are talking about a tragic but accidental combination of circumstances. Most likely the brother really felt envy towards his sister, and the events of that evening cut off his patience. As for the participation of parents in staging the kidnapping and further misleading the investigation, it is worth voicing one more point. Long before this, Father JonBenet lost his daughter from his first marriage in a car accident. If Berg indeed, he accidentally killed his sister. On December 26, 1996, the father was faced with an extremely difficult choice: to break the fate of the last living child, or to save him at the cost of the truth. This version excludes the possibility that the girl's death was an accident, since Berg in this case was threatened with maximum classes with a psychologist. If he beat her deliberately, the American justice system could have treated him completely differently. Most likely, he would not have received a real prison sentence, but for the rest of his life, he would have to live with the stigma of a murderer. It is almost impossible to summarize this story. We can only guess what happened that fateful night. The version about the brother's involvement seems the most logical, but we cannot exclude all options 100. Who do you think killed JonBenet Ramsey? Write your theories in the comments, and remember to like to help promote this video.